How to make your brain work. Like a supercomputer, what if I told you that your brain is currently operating at roughly 40% of its actual capacity, and you've had access to the upgrade switch this entire time? Most people accept mental sluggishness, brain fog, and average cognitive performance as normal. They're leaving massive processing power on the table. Neuroscientists have discovered something that will change how you think about thinking forever. Your brain has computational capabilities that rival artificial intelligence systems, but it's running on outdated optimization protocols. The Vedic scholars understood this 3,000 years ago. They developed meditation practices specifically designed to unlock higher cognitive states. Modern neuroscience calls it neural optimization. Both are pointing to the same biological reality. This isn't motivational fluff. This is hard science. Your brain contains 86 billion neurons capable of forming quadrillions of connections. Right now, you're utilizing a fraction of this network because you've never learned to optimize it. Cognitive researchers have identified the exact conditions that allow your brain to operate at peak efficiency. Faster processing speeds, enhanced memory consolidation, superior pattern recognition, and sustained focus that feels effortless. There are specific switches in your neural architecture that most people never flip. Today, I'm revealing 10 precise methods to transform your brain into a high-performance thinking machine. These aren't theories. They're proven optimization protocols that work at the fundamental level of how neurons communicate. Part 1. The glucose timing. Strategy: your brain is an energy monster. It consumes 20% of your body's total glucose despite being only 2% of your body weight. Most people fuel their brains randomly throughout the day, never considering optimal timing. They wonder why their mental performance crashes and burns by mid-afternoon. Here's the reality. Your brain's glucose utilization follows specific patterns based on cognitive load and circadian rhythms. Research shows that strategic glucose timing can improve cognitive performance by up to 35%. Your brain processes information dramatically faster when glucose arrives exactly when neural activity peaks. Most people do the opposite. They eat when they're hungry, not when their brain needs fuel. This is technique number 1 out of 10, the glucose timing strategy. Consume 15-20 grams of complex carbohydrates 45 minutes before any high cognition task, problem-solving, learning, or creative work. Time a second glucose dose exactly 90 minutes into sustained mental work to prevent the performance cliff. Avoid simple sugars which create insulin spikes that actually impair cognitive function. Your neurons require steady glucose delivery to maintain high-frequency firing patterns. When fuel timing matches neural demand, your processing speed increases measurably. Implement this timing protocol for 5 consecutive days and experience cognitive performance you didn't know you had. Part 2. The cognitive load sequencing method. You approach tasks randomly throughout your day. You switch between easy and difficult work without any strategic framework. This random sequencing devastates your brain's processing efficiency because different cognitive tasks require different neural resources. Brain imaging reveals that task switching creates massive overhead costs. Your brain needs time to reconfigure its neural networks for each new type of thinking. Scientists have mapped optimal cognitive load, sequencing based on neurotransmitter availability, and mental fatigue patterns. Your brain performs best when tasks are sequenced according to their cognitive demands and the time of day. This is technique number 2 out of 10, the cognitive load sequencing method. Complete your highest cognition tasks within the first 3 hours after waking when cortisol and acetylcholine levels peak. Schedule analytical work before creative work. They use different neural circuits. Batch similar cognitive tasks together to minimize switching costs. End your workday with low cognition administrative tasks as your prefrontal cortex fatigues. Your brain maintains higher processing efficiency when tasks are sequenced according to its natural resource availability. Mental fatigue decreases by 40% when you stop forcing high cognition work during low resource periods. Apply this sequencing method starting tomorrow and notice your total cognitive output double within 1 week. Part 3. The neural priming protocol. Most people attack difficult cognitive tasks cold. They sit down and immediately try to think at maximum capacity. This approach wastes the first 15-20 minutes while your brain slowly activates the necessary neural networks. Neuroscientists have discovered a priming effect that can pre-activate specific brain regions before you even begin a task. Athletes prime their muscles before competition. You need to prime your neurons before cognition. Studies demonstrate that targeted neural priming reduces task initiation time and improves accuracy. Your brain performs dramatically better when relevant neural circuits are already active. This is technique number 3 out of 10, the neural priming protocol. 5 minutes before any mentally demanding task, expose yourself to related content. Read one article, watch one video, or review one document in the same domain. This activates the relevant neural networks and retrieves associated information from long-term memory. When you begin the actual task, your brain is already operating in the correct cognitive mode. The priming eliminates the ramp-up period and allows immediate high-level processing. Your neurons fire in coordinated patterns instead of random activation. Prime your brain before 3 major cognitive tasks this week. Integrate this protocol permanently and eliminate cognitive warm-up time from your work. Part 4. The information chunking system. Your working memory can hold approximately 7 pieces of information simultaneously. Most people try to process information in its raw form, quickly overwhelming this limited capacity. They struggle with complex topics because they're exceeding their working memory bandwidth. But there's a method to compress information density without losing content. Cognitive psychologists call it chunking, organizing data into meaningful clusters that occupy single working memory slots. Research shows that expert performers in every field use sophisticated chunking strategies to process vastly more information than novices. They're not smarter. They're organizing information more efficiently. This is technique number 4 out of 10, the information chunking system. When learning complex material, deliberately group related concepts into labeled categories. Convert 20 individual facts into 5 categories containing 4 facts each. Create acronyms, patterns, or stories that bind information together. Practice retrieving information by category rather than individual items. Your working memory can now hold 5 chunks instead of being overloaded by 20 separate pieces. Processing speed increases because your brain manipulates fewer units while retaining all the actual information. Cognitive load decreases dramatically through this compression. Apply chunking to one complex subject this week and observe how easily you master material that previously seemed overwhelming. Part 5. The interleaved learning technique traditional. Learning focuses on one topic until mastery, then moves to the next. This feels efficient but produces terrible long-term retention and poor transfer of knowledge. Your brain learns better through comparison and contrast, not through isolated repetition. Neuroscientists have validated a counterintuitive learning approach that feels harder but produces dramatically superior results. It's called interleaved practice, mixing different topics together instead of studying them in blocks. Brain. Imaging studies show that interleaved learning strengthens neural pattern recognition and improves knowledge retrieval. Your brain builds richer associative networks when it must distinguish between similar concepts. This is technique number 5 out of 10, the interleaved learning technique. When studying multiple topics, switch between them every 15-20 minutes instead of completing one before starting another. Study topic A for 15 minutes, switch to topic B, then topic C, then return to topic A. This forces your brain to actively retrieve and compare information. The difficulty you feel is actually your brain building stronger neural connections. Long-term retention improves by 50% compared to blocked practice. Your ability to apply knowledge in novel situations skyrockets because you've trained discrimination, not just memorization. Implement interleaved practice for your next learning project and witness retention that persists for months instead of days. Part 6. The cognitive recovery interval. Your brain cannot sustain peak performance continuously. Trying to maintain focus for hours straight depletes your prefrontal cortex and diminishes returns exponentially. Most people push through this fatigue, producing low-quality work while feeling accomplished about their effort. But neuroscience reveals that strategic recovery intervals actually increase total cognitive output. Your brain needs specific types of rest to restore its processing capacity. Studies show that ultradian rhythms govern your brain's performance, 90-minute cycles of high and low neural efficiency. Working against these rhythms creates unnecessary cognitive strain. This is technique number 6 out of 10, the cognitive recovery interval. After every 90 minutes of focused work, take a complete 15-minute cognitive break. No phone, no reading, no conversation. Go outside, walk, or simply sit with eyes closed. This isn't wasted time. It's neural system restoration. Your brain enters a default mode that consolidates learning. and clears metabolic waste from neurons. When you return to work, your processing speed is restored to peak levels. Working 4 cycles of 90 on 15 off produces more quality output than 6 hours of continuous effort. Honor your brain's recovery needs and observe your total daily cognitive capacity expand by 60%. Part 7. The Attention Filtering Framework. Your environment bombards you with thousands of stimuli every second. Your brain can only process a tiny fraction consciously. Most people allow their attention to be captured reactively by whatever is loudest or newest. This scatters cognitive resources across irrelevant inputs and decimates focus quality. But you can train your brain's filtering system to automatically ignore distractions and maintain attention on chosen targets. Neuroscientists have identified that attention is a trainable skill, not a fixed trait. Your brain's filtering mechanisms strengthen with deliberate practice, just like muscles strengthen with exercise. This is technique number 7 out of 10. The Attention Filtering Framework. Practice sustained attention by focusing on one object for exactly 3 minutes daily. A candle flame, your breath, or a single point on the wall. When your attention wanders, gently return it without judgment. Do this every morning for 30 consecutive days. Your brain physically strengthens the neural circuits responsible for voluntary attention control. Distractibility decreases measurably as your filtering system becomes more efficient. After 1 month, your ability to maintain focus during work increases by 200%. Train your attention filtering systematically and experience focus that feels superhuman. Part 8. The Dual Task Integration Method. Most people believe multitasking destroys productivity. They're partially correct. Random task switching devastates performance. But there's a specific type of dual task processing that actually enhances learning and memory. When you pair a cognitive task with a compatible physical activity, your brain creates richer neural encodings. The physical movement activates additional brain regions that strengthen memory consolidation. Research demonstrates that light physical activity during learning improves retention by 25% compared to stationary studying. Your brain processes information more deeply when multiple neural systems are engaged simultaneously. This is technique number 8 out of 10, the Dual Task Integration Method. Pair cognitive work with light movement. Walk slowly while reviewing information. Stand and shift weight while memorizing, or perform gentle stretches during reading. The movement must be rhythmic and automatic, requiring no conscious attention. This activates your motor cortex and cerebellum, while your prefrontal cortex handles the cognitive load. The cross-brain activation creates stronger memory traces and improves information integration. Learning that felt effortful while sitting becomes easier while moving. Integrate movement with 50% of your learning sessions this month. Adopt this method permanently and experience retention rates that seem impossible. Part 9. The Neurochemical Optimization Schedule. Your brain operates on neurotransmitters, chemical messengers that determine processing speed, focus quality, and mood states. Different neurotransmitters peak at different times of day following your circadian rhythm. Most people fight against these natural fluctuations instead of leveraging them. Understanding your neurochemical schedule allows you to match specific cognitive tasks to optimal brain chemistry windows. Scientists have mapped when dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and acetylcholine reach peak and trough levels throughout a 24-hour cycle. This biological rhythm determines what type of thinking your brain does best at each hour. This is technique number 9 out of 10, the Neurochemical Optimization Schedule. Schedule analytical and detail-oriented work between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. when dopamine and norepinephrine peak. Reserve creative and big-picture thinking for late afternoon when serotonin rises and dopamine mellows. Avoid important decisions during the 2 to 4 p.m. window when most neurotransmitters dip. Handle routine execution in early evening when acetylcholine remains elevated. Your brain's chemistry is already optimized for specific cognitive modes at specific times. Align your work accordingly instead of swimming upstream. Match task type to neurochemistry for 1 full week and experience what peak cognitive performance actually feels like. Part 10. The Sleep Architecture. Most people treat sleep as downtime when their brain shuts off. Nothing could be further from the truth. Your sleeping brain performs critical optimization processes that directly determine next-day cognitive performance. During sleep, your brain consolidates memories, clears toxic proteins, and reorganizes neural networks. Sleep architecture. The specific pattern of sleep stages throughout the night determines the quality of these optimization processes. Neuroscience reveals that sleep stage sequencing and duration dramatically impacts learning, memory, creativity, and processing speed. Poor sleep architecture erases up to 40% of your brain's daytime gains. This is technique number 10 out of 10. The sleep architecture hack. Maintain a consistent sleep schedule within a 30-minute window, same bedtime and wake time daily, including weekends. This optimizes your circadian rhythm for deep sleep and REM sleep timing. Eliminate screens 60 minutes before bed to allow natural melatonin rise. Sleep in a completely dark, cool room to maximize slow-wave sleep duration. These conditions allow your brain to complete full optimization cycles across all sleep stages. Memory consolidation improves by 35%. Processing speed increases measurably the next day because your neurons completed necessary maintenance. Optimize your sleep architecture for 14 consecutive nights and unlock cognitive abilities that poor sleep has been suppressing for years. Your brain isn't a fixed processor running at predetermined speeds. It's an adaptive supercomputer that responds to optimization protocols. These 10 techniques aren't just performance tips. They're the exact methods that separate average cognitive function from exceptional mental performance. The ancient wisdom traditions taught that the mind could be trained to superhuman levels. Neuroscience has now mapped the precise mechanisms that make this possible. Both paths lead to the same destination, a brain operating at its true capacity instead of its default settings. The cognitive limitations you've accepted aren't permanent features. They're temporary bugs running on unoptimized software. You've been given the upgrade codes. Your transformation doesn't start tomorrow or next week. It starts the instant you implement your first optimization protocol. Your high-performance brain is waiting.